Maybe the most underrated song and one of the most underrated groups in the last 30 years. Welcome to The Social Spreader, a show designed to offer perspective and education on sports, gambling, and society. Now, literally right before I hit record, my wife comes down and says, "Now, Kevin, remember, there's a lot of heavy stuff going on right now in the world, and you're a sweet guy, so you got to make sure that your audience sees that sweetness and maybe talk about things that are more light." So, sweetness and light. And is this nothing more than a feeble attempt at hopefully becoming friendly with the South Beach scurvy? Hoping to join a network of an avian variety, an ornithological type? Let me just say, maybe. Now, before we jump into what this show is going to be, I need to reminisce a little bit. It was 18 years ago, to the day, that I got hooked on sports gambling. On September 20th, 2003, the number 4 ranked Michigan Wolverines were headed out to Eugene to play the Oregon Ducks. Now, Oregon was not who they are now. In 2003, they had some good years, and they were in the Pac-12, and they would sometimes compete for a championship there, but they were a far cry from landing the 5- and 4-star recruits and potentially making a run at the playoffs every year. Michigan, however, was the number 4 team in the country with NFL talent littered all over their roster. Yes, kids, that is correct. Michigan used to be a title contender. Man, I'm getting old. Back to the story. So, Oregon was a 15-point underdog. The over-under was 56.5, and the money line on Oregon was plus 475. Now, in 2003, same-game parlays were allowed. I know that there's some sports books that are allowing it to come back, but it was a sad, sad day when I learned that same-game parlays were no longer allowed. I don't know why the books thought that they were overexposed too much. It was such a great opportunity when you thought a team would cover, the favorite would win, and you'd have the over-under. It was a really good way to get some heavy action on one game. They outlawed it. I've heard that it's making a comeback. Either way, I was so sad when I found out that it was no longer a thing. So, also in 2003, online gambling wasn't a thing. So I had to come up with a plan. There was no other way for somebody to make this happen unless either you lived in Las Vegas or you somehow had access to Las Vegas, because, as I said before, online gambling wasn't a thing yet. And so, first, I needed to come up with some money. I was so sure of this game, I needed to come up with some money. So I called my parents and I told them that a storm that moved through the college town that I was at caused $1,500 worth of damage to my car. And that was true in terms of the storm. So there's my funding. Along the way of me being an athlete, I played AAU ball when I was a kid, and I stayed in touch with a guy that I met during a tournament when I was in high school. And he ended up becoming the hugest gambling fan that you could ever imagine. In fact, what I had learned is right after high school, he packed up all his shit and just went to Vegas and started working in any casino that he could. And I actually tip my hat to him now, because that takes a lot of balls to do that when you are 18 years old. Then when I was in college, I had heard that he got a good PR gig at the Mirage. So I hop on the phone, and I had to call the Mirage and legitimately ask them, "Hey, is this guy working?" And they said, "Yes, he is. Would you like to be connected?" I said, "Absolutely." Now, this guy was from Detroit, and that's where I met him, at an AAU basketball tournament in Detroit. I was from the Minneapolis area. Nicest guy in the world. And so, as you can probably tell, he was a very big Wolverine fan. And I called him, and I said, "Hey, man, look, I've got this amount of money. I think Michigan is going to lose." After he weaves a tapestry of obscenities about how, who the bleep are the Ducks, yada, 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 I'm like, okay, so I'm telling you that they are going to lose. Get all the word and the verbiage out that you need, but we need to get right down to business. And I had never wired money before. I didn't even know that was a thing. Western Union? Who the hell knows about that? Especially when you're in college. And so I, as I said before, I'd never wired money before. I had just turned 21. I had, from a maturity and having my shit together standpoint, I was more like I was 18, but that's a whole other story for a whole other day. So I wired him $1,100, and he went and talked to one of the colleagues that he had at the sports book, and they decided to take the bet. And you guys can do your own math at home. It was a 3-team same game parlay. So I had Oregon to cover 15. I had over 56.5, and they also gave me the money line of Oregon at plus 475. 31-27 Ducks. Now, this was a very different time, and so ultimately, as the weeks progressed, earnings were secured, and that was the day that I fell in love with this stuff. And with the proliferation of what sports gambling is going to become in this country, that's really what this show is going to be. It's going to be an opportunity for people to learn how to look at the games, how to analyze it, not just from a standpoint of I'm hoping my team wins, I'm hoping that all of this stuff can work out, because the first rule 1 of gambling on sports is you need to leave any allegiance and any favorite team at the door. There's a reason why there are big hotels and casinos out in the middle of the desert. It's because people wager with this, not with this. You've got to look at it from a very analytical, very almost accounting, a very analytical, statistical way. Now, are there going to be factors that have to do with the sport? Absolutely. And we'll go over those as well. But what I wanted to do first is really show you guys exactly what it is that we're going to be doing, how I look at things. Now, the information that I get, you can find this anywhere. I don't know the rules yet of podcasting, so I'm not going to drop anybody's name in terms of the website that I use, nor am I going to say the other places of, I guess, the other sources of information that I get, because I don't know the rules yet, but I'm going to figure it out. If you have any questions or anything, the.social.spreader@gmail.com. Go ahead and shoot me an email. If you're watching this on my YouTube channel, you obviously see that site as well. So I have picked 2 random games that I want to go over with you. And I'm going to go through exactly how it is that I look at them. I've been doing this now since 2003. Over the last 10 years, it has become a more consistent thing for me, and it's certainly something that I'm extremely passionate about. The other thing too, picking winners and making money don't necessarily go hand in hand. You'd think that they would, but I was reminded of it this weekend, and that actually reminds me. Let's go over that. Wow, if you still have any kind of a bankroll or anything like that after the weekend that we had, bravo, because this past Saturday of college football was hands down the most upside down, wacky weekend that I had ever seen in my life. There were bad beats all over the place. And so if you came through that unscathed, I tip my hat to you. That's fantastic. Sometimes breaking even is so much of a win that it should give you the confidence to really try to capitalize going into next week. And that's kind of how I feel now, because I was able to break even last weekend. A couple things that I do need to go over. UConn Army. Oh, man. Wherever you shopped around, you could get Army at 32.5, anywhere from 32.5 up to 35, depending upon where you put the bet. Closer to kickoff, I know it closed closer to 35. 33 was where I had it. And when you're up 42-0 at halftime against UConn. Nothing but confidence that ticket is going to cash, and that's a tough one to swallow. That was probably the hardest one to swallow. Also, Cincinnati, Indiana. Two extremely talented defenses, very old. They got a lot of seniors and whatnot coming back. And when you're sitting at 14-10 at halftime, and you got the over-under at 53, I was feeling good. Obviously, I'll live. But I don't normally like to go over all of the bad beats, but man, those were a couple that really just, I had to get them out. Sometimes you got to exercise the demons and get them out of you just so they don't have any kind of a carryover effect to the next weekend. And so I'm hoping that actually helped. I also hope that all of you are really enjoying the production quality from my basement. When you go to your wife, hey, I would really like to start a podcast. She's like, okay, well, find a corner in the basement. Okay, very good. As a wise man once says, okay, very good. Anyway, back to the show. So let's take a look at some games. I'm going to go over everything that I see. I'm going to go over and analyze all of the information that I look at in order to make as much of an informed decision on trying to pick a winner. And so the first game that I'm going to look at is probably right at the top of everyone's list this week. Wake Forest and Virginia. Right now the spread is Virginia at 4. It's pretty much a toss-up in terms of where the public money is. The over-under is at 68.5 and 90% of the money is on the over. Now, you'll probably hear a lot of people tell you that find where the public is and go opposite. As I said before, do you want to know why there's hotels and casinos out in the middle of nowhere? It's because a lot of people are lemons, and they make a lot of money that way. So, 90% on the over, yeah, that's a tough one. So, let's take a look at what these teams have done. So, the last 3 games, Wake Forest is actually 3-0. They are 3-0 versus these guys. And last year, they had them at home, and they beat them by 17. So, Wake Forest actually has 11 guys back on offense and 8 guys back on defense. Now, so far this year, Wake is a perfect... my apologies. They're 3-0, but they're 1-2 against the spread. Virginia is 2-1, and they're also 2-1 against the spread. They're 2-0 against the spread at home. And so if I take a look at Wake Forest and Virginia 7-2 against the spread in their last 9. The over is hit 14 of the last 19. Wake Forest is 7-3 straight up in their last 10. They're also 4-1 straight up in their last 5 against Virginia. Wow. They're also 6-0 against the spread in their last 6 games against Virginia as well. So if I got a team that is 6-0 against the spread against another team and I'm getting points, that sounds a little juicy, man. That sounds maybe too good to be true. The total has gone under in 7 of the last 8 games of Wake Forest. I just, when I see such an overwhelming amount of money on anything, be it the spread or the over-under, it's usually a stay away for me. At the end of the day, the juice isn't worth the squeeze when it comes to trying, because when you look at it, Wake is averaging 40 points a game and Virginia's averaging 40 points a game. On the other side of the ball, Wake is only giving up 13 points. However, they've only played Florida State, Norfolk, and Old Dominion. Whereas Virginia has played North Carolina, Illinois, and William and Mary. Another thing that I also like to look at are common foes. And if I look back at the last 10 games that these two teams have played, so Virginia got blitzed last weekend. That was another interesting one. 59-39 against North Carolina. Now, here's something interesting. The last time that Wake Forest played North Carolina, it was 53-59. So North Carolina scored the same amount of points against Wake Forest that they did against Virginia, but Wake kept up with them. Virginia just ran out of gas. If I had to, I'm leaning Wake on this one. I would definitely take a look at Wake Forest if you like what they're doing, if you like what they look like. Have at it. Couple of noteworthy stats. 10-0. Wake Forest is 10-0. The over on the road before playing NC State. They don't play NC State next week. They've got, as I said before, they got 11 guys back on offense, 8 guys back on defense. Maybe this will be useful in the future. Wake Forest is 9-2 against the spread the last 3 years at home, so they've kind of owned the home cooking. They covered against Old Dominion, and I believe that might be the only one that they did. Let me check that real quick. Scratch that. The only game that they've covered so far this year is against Florida State. They kind of called off the dogs against Old Dominion and Norfolk, as they should. You know, with how many teams are available out there in Power 5, or even, you know, the MAC or something like that, you know, I have a hard time seeing these programs in Power 5s playing teams like William and Mary or Norfolk State or Campbell. Like, why can't you just schedule someone else? Why not play Miami of Ohio? Why not play Toledo? It might not be as easy of a win, but at least you get something out of it. Anyway, jumping off my soapbox now. So, yep, after looking at everything and analyzing all of the numbers, I'd lean Wake Forest on this one. The next one we're going to take a look at real quick is Marshall and the Thundering Herd. Now, this one is interesting. I'm sorry, Marshall and Appalachian State. This one is really interesting because Marshall has 7 guys coming back on a defense that was a juggernaut actually last year. The most that a team scored against Marshall last year was 20. That was the high. They hit the under. They hit the under 7 times last year. They're playing Appalachian State on the road, and correct me if I'm wrong, that is Thursday night. Yep, that's the Thursday night game, right? Now, I tend to stay away from Thursday night games, any kind of like odd type of games. Well, not odd, just in terms of a scheduling thing. I kind of tend to stay away unless there's an edge that I can find. And let's be real here, people. That's all we're trying to do. We're trying to find an edge here. This is a coin flip, and it's a coin flip that can make you go insane. Sports gambling is fun, but you have to do it within your own means, and you also have to do it in a way that works for you. I, for one, am a unit type of my approach is I do a unit. One game is a unit. Whatever the valuation of that unit is, I don't change it. It's not worth it. It's not, in my opinion, if you've got a feeling about something so much and you want to go all in and you win, I'm happy for you, man. I want everybody to feel how I felt in 2003. That's what we're after here. The corporations and all the money that are behind these casinos. I'm hoping that you get to have that feeling. It's a great moment to choose a team, watch them win, and to win you however much it is. It's a fantastic feeling. So I certainly hope that you're able to do that. But let's use this weekend as a cautionary tale. There's a report out there of a guy who put down, I believe it was a $50 bet, and he had a 16-team parlay. And going into Monday Night Football, he was 15 of 15. And he took the bleeping Lions on the money line at Lambeau. Now look, if he would have put individual wagers on every single one of those 15 games, Monday Night Football would, I don't want to say it'd be meaningless, but it certainly wouldn't have had such a crushing defeat of him. Granted, he only lost $50, but from what I saw online, it was to win 28 grand, something like that. It was one of the more ridiculous things that I'd ever seen. Now, this guy is truly talented. If you can go 15 for 15 in a weekend, I don't know why you're wasting your time with parlays and teasers. If you were to just do a unit approach, that would be such an easier way for you to make money and accumulate money that way, simply because if you're 15 for 15, where are you going? Why are you doing a parlay? If you're that good every week, be good at what you're good at. That when I saw that that he did it in a parlay, I was like, why would you not just do it straight up and you would make 15 times, you'd make money 15 times in a row. And if you're that good, man, hit me up. Let's talk, because I would love that too. I think my highest year was 66%. On average, I'm at about 60. And if you hit 52% of your bets, you're a professional sports gambler. And so, man, that's a tough one to swallow. Anyway, we're going back to Marshall and Appalachian State. Now, Appalachian State just had a really good game against Miami. And whether or not you think Miami is who they are, it's still a tough place to play. And they covered. They were 8-point underdogs, and they should have won that game. In a lot of ways, they should have won that game. But the reason why I'm looking at this, which would kind of be off the beaten path for me, is because one of the things that I always like to look at is common foes. And September 2nd, so 20 days ago, Appalachian State beat East Carolina 33-19. 4 days ago, Marshall lost to East Carolina 42-38. Now, before the season, I was thinking Marshall was going to be a juggernaut. They were a juggernaut last year. They were very, very good to me. They won a lot of games. They covered a lot. In fact, they covered they covered their first 5. They covered 6 out of their first 8. And then something happened at the end of the year last year. Do I think Doc Holliday should have been fired? No. You can't have a team get up from Marshall. They were 15th in the country, and they were undefeated going into roughly Thanksgiving. And you fire them because they lose to Rice, UAB, and then they lost to Buffalo. But Buffalo is a juggernaut against the spread too. So why am I talking about a football game on Thursday night that I would normally stay away from? It's because of the common foes. And no one likes going to Appalachian State. And a fun fact, Marshall is 1-7 against the spread in their last 8 games played on a Thursday. So take what you want. I'm leaning Appalachian. They're 16-4 straight up in their last 20. They're 19-1 straight up in their last 20 games at home, and they have to cover 7. It's 50-50 in terms of where the money is right now. 65% of the money's on the over at 60. That's a tough one, just because any one of these teams can show up really on the other half of the ball, and that's just. I'm full disclosure. I'm not the most. I don't wager the over/under very, very often. If there's significant weather, or for instance, Texas A&M, they played last weekend against, I believe it was New Mexico or New Mexico State, and I just knew that team wouldn't score. But I also knew that Texas A&M's quarterback was hurt, and so the under was kind of an easy one. I think it was 34-0 or 34-6. It was 52.5. And so when you get those situations, obviously try to apply the information to the game. But I'm not very good at the over-unders. And so that is certainly something that if I do end up going with an over-under, and there's maybe 3 or 4 every weekend that I do, then I probably have a reason for it. I also see here that Appalachian State is 5-2 against the spread in their last 7 games played on Thursday. So with Marshall limping in on a Thursday at 1-7 against the spread in their last 8, and Appalachian kind of sprinting on a Thursday at 5-2, I think a good lean would be towards Appalachian State. So that's the information that I like to look at. Those are the ways that I analyze a game. If it's more of an instinct where I feel that a team is going to win, then I do it. Because if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down swinging. I'm going to go down with my instincts. One of the things that people always ask is, have you ever used a service? And I said no. And they're like, well, why? I mean, well, because there is such a coin flip nature to this that I don't know why, unless you are wagering heavy money and you trust that other people are going to have more expertise than you, and you might not have the time, you might not have the resources to do the research that you should. Okay. I would hope that they charge a flat fee instead of a percentage of what you win, because let's be honest, if we've learned anything in the last 18 months, let's put some food on the table, even if it's just a Happy Meal, even if it's just lunch money, maybe go grab a pizza, whatever we can do to become, I guess, more accurate with our research, and also make sure that what we are looking at is what we should be looking at. And there are so many factors that go into a football game that paralysis by analysis is something that can happen very easily. And by simply keeping it, nothing simple, by trying to keep it simple, and by making sure that we are looking at the right things, hopefully we can find a way to pick more winners. And with the proliferation of it, and with the legality of it becoming more and more prevalent within the United States, I also find it hilarious that the moralists were the ones saying that having $5 on Temple to cover against Memphis makes you a terrible person. Get the fuck out of here. The fact that it's legal, and the fact that it is out of the darkness is so awesome, and I don't know what else to say. I'm a huge fan. I'm fascinated by it. It's something that has been extremely fun for me. A little bit of some history. I was involved in the stock market from 2006 to 2010. That was so much fun. The amount of money that I lost when everything crashed was, again, super fun. And so, if it weren't for this, I don't know if I would have eaten sometimes. I don't know if I would have been able to make rent. And to all the people that helped me along the way, thank you so much. It's kind of a double-edged sword, though, because, I was making bets with it. It doesn't matter. Go ahead and subscribe to my podcast, The Social Spreader. Go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm gonna be putting this on. I'm gonna be recording every Tuesday, Thursday, and then I'm gonna do a quick show on Friday as well. We're gonna be analyzing about 10 games or so every day. I'm going to generally do about 30 games, taking a look at the spreads, taking a look at where all the money is. Also, we're also going to take a look at where the sharps moved it. Normally when you see the lines open Sunday night, Monday morning, you're going to see a pretty immediate adjustment. And for those of you that are new to this, we are going to take more of an educational approach. That's my objective here, is to make people smarter, give them more of an insight in terms of how do you break down these games, how do you look at them, what do you look for, injury reports, whether does a team just have another team's number, common foes. That's something that I've believed in, that has proven to, let's just say that's given me reason to believe in it over the years. And so that's something that we will certainly do. But those are the two games that I wanted to start with. And this is going to be something that's going to be a very fluid situation as the season goes on. I don't know if anybody has their own podcast, but it's certainly something very interesting. I'm very excited about this. Hopefully the production quality of my basement is okay with you guys, and I really hope that we can try to figure this out, because it's only going to become more and more legal. It's only going to become more and more popular, and let's just be honest, man, it's fun. It's so much fun. There's nothing I enjoy more than putting on my music list. Lots of music. The Greatest Showman, Fort Minor, a lot of old school ones. Just any kind of music that gets me in the zone to just do my research and to try to figure this out is super fun for me. And I truly hope that you feel the exact same way. So all the information I have, and as I said earlier, I'm going to learn more about the rules, about how this works. All the information that I shared with you is available to the public. I don't know those rules yet, and so once I do know them, I'll be happy to share it. It's not proprietary information by any means. It's one website, and then it's a network out in Vegas that offers a very thorough pamphlet, a very thorough PDF file that can give you a lot of insight to these games and these teams. It's very important to know how many seniors are returning, how they did last year, how they fared against the spread, how they did in the over/under, and so that's where I get all of the information. I take my instinct, what I think what's going to happen. I try to find things that are going to support that feeling, and then I just run with it. As I said before, at the end of the day, it's a coin flip type of a thing, and so if you are able to somehow position that coin to fall more favorably in your favor, everyone's a winner, and that's all that we're after here. So, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the first half hour. This is generally going to be the length of the show. I'm gonna do my best, as I said earlier on. I'm gonna do my best to keep it with sports. There's a lot of things that are not making that easy. And let's be honest, I'm not going to keep to sports. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the first show. Good luck with your bets.